Hello.
Hello,
How you doing?
I'm fine, thank
Okay.
you.
Adam, right?
I go by multiple names. My biological name was issued to me by my parents. My certification name was Abdulmuhaimin. So I'd prefer to have my session as Abdulmuhaimin.
Abdulmuhaimin.
Yes,
Yes. So you're Muslim.
yes, I'm a Muslim.
Okay. Just introduce yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Abdulmuhaimin. I'm a Muslim. I'm 30 years old, and this is my session on opinion and impact.
Right. Um, can you just how's it growing up?
Okay, well, my growing up was a very unintriguing and unpleasant story about any child.
What when you say unpleasant, what are you talking about?
Well, I had very I had a very abusive background as a child, and I didn't have parents that really loved me as a parent as it was ought to be. I used to grow up thinking that we were to look up to our parents for guidance and they were supposed to be our role models. But along the line, my parents were the major cause of all my afflictions, my failures, my scars, my psychological injuries. And to think of having parents like that would would I would I would prefer that I rather was an orphan than to have had them as my parents.
Where are you from, Adam?
Okay, I'm from Kogi State. Apparently, my dad is Kogi. My mom is from Benue State. Um, but I was born and brought up in Abuja.
So where did you do most of your childhood?
So most of my childhood was in Abuja.
Okay. So when you talk about your parents being part of your scars or major causes of your scars, what do you mean exactly?
Well, what I mean by those things is that there were parents that were very verbally and physically very abusive. My abuse began from my mom when I was a kid, and I didn't really know why she was venting those extreme aggressiveness and dislove towards me as a child. She she didn't love me as a child, and she used to see me as somebody that she could throw away, or she used to see me as somebody she was embarrassed by. So I grew up having a lot of low self-esteem, and I was abused by a lot of people that I couldn't. I've been abused. I've been my rights as a child have been trampled upon by people and by their relative, and they responded very adamantly to those things. I was sexually abused as a child by my brother to my father, and I couldn't say anything as a kid because I was scared that they might beat me up or they might blame me. And I heard that and I tucked it in, and I lived with that trauma till I became an adult. And my father turned a blind eye towards all my complaints. I had a very manipulative stepmother. All the potentials I was supposed to harness as a child, none came into manifestation. And it has left a lot of scar in my heart because I live a life of I live a very empty life every day because all my potentials were not harnessed. Everything that I could be was taken away by my father's nonchalance with his responses towards the things that were done to me by the people he brought into my life. His wife was a very manipulative person. She lied so much and she took everything away from me. My school, my academics was disrupted heavily by my stepmother. All the times I tried to make decisions that could take me to places or things I dreamt about as a kid, she came and she sabotaged all of them. And at their old age, they don't seem to have regretted anything they did. their own solace is in trying to blame me still up to today for even the mistake and the lapses that they made in the way they lived. And I suffered so much abuse from my stepmother. My stepmother made sure I benefited nothing from my father. I'm the firstborn of the house. I've been kicked out of the house so many times for very, very frivolous reasons. I was kicked out of the house during COVID-19, where I was withdrawn from school because I found my underwear in my stepmother's car while I was washing her car. And while I was in school, I sent a text message to my father and his wife that I found my underwear in his car, and that led to my withdrawal from school. I was going to my 300 level, and I was brought down to devastation. I suffered depression. I was taking antidepressants. And my mom wasn't really supportive. My mom was always trying to compare me with my brother. My younger brother already had a smooth sail. So that comparison led to so much disrespect for my younger brother. And each time he shows or exhibits disrespect, my mother doesn't have the decorum to caution him about those things and try to give me my integrity as the older one. She rubs it in my face and makes me feel like a failure. She has given her other children the effrontery to throw shit in my face that I can amount to nothing in life. All the right sacrifices that a parent is supposed to make, that I expected even my mom would make at some point, wasn't made by her. She was always trying to look for my lapses and my flaws to point to me so I would think that I am a loser. It's just the innermost spirit in me that keeps to fight and try to remain objective, to be able to know if my circumstances actually as a result of my discapability or as a result of their own excessive as parents. And by God's grace, I could tell that their excesses played so much in my potential destruction than my own incapabilities, because I've been appreciated by a lot of people that are closest to me, that have tried to see the best in me. So those appreciation that I receive from people, my friends, have played more significance in giving me a more solid self-esteem than the ones that came from my parents.
How do you, with all these experiences, now see life and approach life?
Well, the experiences tell on a person psychologically, no matter how strong you want to really be about all these things. In the end of the day, we are still human. We might try to hack reality, or we might try to be smart about reality to make ourselves to become immune to the things around us. But the only time we are immune is when we are brain dead or we are actually dead. But once you are living and you are responsive to things, you will be affected rightly or wrongly, heavily dependent on who you are. But regardless of who you are, you definitely will respond to pain negatively because your body rejects what it's not supposed to receive. I don't look at life as a lovely place. I look at life as a very mean place. I look at life as a place where everybody is selfish. I look at life as a place that is just horrible. I look at life as an ego-centered place or stage where everybody wants to prove his self-worth. And in trying to do that, they do not care about who they step on or crumble on their way to the top. I look at life as a place that is cruel and is a dog-eat-dog world. And I don't look at humanity as an empathy conscious community. I look at humanity as the animal kingdom, and they are just people in the wild with clothes and suits, and they approach you with meanness and horrifulness, and the first instinct you get around people is unsafety and uncertainty. The first problem you have with people is distrust. The most experiences you have with people is betrayal, and the only thing you can expect from people is still disappointment.
When you say betrayal, have you ever experienced any betrayal?
I've been betrayed so many times. I've been betrayed in extreme food. And the betrayal came from my need to want to trust and want to operate humanly with the next person. I've been betrayed by family, I've been betrayed by friends. I've been betrayed by a friend that took advantage of my lapses, my problems. I was dealing with depression last year and I couldn't handle my fears. I had a car that was given to my friend, and he played a role in helping me to acquire the car, and I felt it was only right, and it was only reciprocative to try to return the gesture of favor by also giving him an opportunity for him to rise along with you. And he used that opportunity to sabotage me completely. He was using my car and he lied to me for over several months. He drove the car as much as he did. I gave him all the liberty to drive the car as much as he did. And in as much as a lot of people might be looking at it as that I handled business with too much emotion and sloppiness, but I felt I was handling it not really as a business. I felt I was handling it as a unity of people that had coming together to rely on each other on the basis of trust. And he betrayed my trust. He sabotaged me, briefed me, made so much money from the car. And after he made so much money from the car, he abandoned and he left the car in bad shape. I had to begin to pick up my pieces from the car. I became homeless. I had to sell the car at some point because at the time I couldn't drive the car. It was a manual car. I had not had the opportunity to learn the car. Part of the money from the sale of the car was given to my brother, the younger brother of mine, that also betrayed me. I gave it to him to use to do rice farm for me. I didn't acquire things or pay rent with the money. I wanted to still try to reinvest the money and stay somewhere, hoping that by the time the money, is turned over from investment to be of a huge benefit. I gave him a sum of 200,000 naira out of my money, and he still sabotaged me. He used it to play Ponzi scheme, and he was lying to me all along. And later on, when I was supposed to go to check out the farm, he came up with the story of him using the money to invest in the Ponzi scheme, and the whole thing crashed. It led me down to another spiral again of homelessness, where I was tossed around again by people, living in people's house and trying to fend for myself or trying to get a job. I had not acquired a degree because I was withdrawn from school by my father, so I've been in a bad place all the while.
Talking about being in a bad place, what is the lowest, that you've ever been?
I've had a lot of stages of so much lowness that I cannot really tell. I just feel I always come back to the lowest point again. So I've had stages of low points that I can't really tell their difference. From me sleeping in my car for up to a month, from me sleeping in my car and a friend of mine's car that was close to my car got stolen, and I entered the police case and I was taken to police on investigation that the theft of the car might be tied to me, or for me being betrayed by my so-called friend/relative that used my car, ripped me off so much, abandoned me, and I had nothing. How to get by with feeding and accommodation was all from me being betrayed by my own brother that I gave money to farm for me when I had sold my car, or for me being kicked out of the house by my father when I was in a critical stage of my life. I was battling depression and I was kicked out of the house by my father because I had a squabble with my younger brother and I was kicked out. Or for me being kicked out of my father's house because My stepmother cooked food and I didn't come to carry it quick, and I was sent out of the house during COVID-19. There was no job. I had to work in a hotel where I was mopping and sweeping and cutting the grasses. I was the receptionist slash the gate man. So I can't really tell which is the lowest point.
Where is hope for you right now?
Well, in the grand scheme of things, I used to want to believe that maybe somewhere, maybe at some point in life, or maybe somewhere out in the depth of the universe, maybe fortune might find me as fortune has found some other people. I would say I am more, I struggle to stay hopeful because it's only necessary to be hopeful so you get the enthusiasm to forge ahead with life. But with the experiences of things, I have more susceptibility not to be hopeful because everything seems on a continuous spiral down an endless pit, and I don't know, I don't understand the wisdom in the whole thing. It has lingered for so many years, and
I would like to know if has this experience shaped you in a form that it might affect how you parent.
well, I believe that our experiences are supposed to caution us than instigating us to do worse. Because if it wasn't good for me and it affected me in this way, it is very necessary that I have to be very conscious and deliberate when I'm handling children. That the necessary affection, the necessary empathy and background is not to be toyed with because it can go a long way to really damaging a person.
What is one thing you regret the most, in all of these experiences? What is one thing you regret or you lack the most?
One thing I regret the most, well, it is it's a question I've never really thought of somewhere in my head. My personal actions, I'm not somebody that really likes to regret my actions because I would want to say my actions come from the best of intentions. I don't wish anybody bad and I don't wish anybody evil. I have always responded in aggression against things that could potentially damage me, and I don't feel it was a wrong response. I feel if I responded aggressively to something that is bad towards me, I might have responded maybe excessively aggressively, but I don't think I responded excessively aggressively because I've not done anything that is law breaking in the midst of all of this. So I don't think I responded excessively aggressively. So I can't really see for sure that I really, if there is anything I actually regret, I would say I regretted trying to stay maybe heavily morally conscious. Maybe probably if I might have broken the rule and gone rogue as other boys under their parents would have done, I would have been in a better financial state because maybe I would have sold their property or stolen from them and I've used it. But in not doing that, in trying to do what is right, I wouldn't really say I've gotten any positive result in doing what is right so far.
I would also like to know if these experiences have um, made you, pushed you to do one or two things that are contrary to your character.
The experience is on a constant push into pushing me to to doing things that I do not want to, because there was a time I began to, I always wanted to live conformably, responsibly, morally upright. I always wanted to be at peace with conscience, and I always wanted to be at peace with God. And I always wanted to make sure that I wanted to get married as a virgin, and I wanted to do what was right. I wanted to live really morally upright, but along the line, I did a lot of things out of the feeling of worthlessness. So I began to drink, began to smoke at some point, but I held myself back from allowing the smoking to go far in destruction. So I don't think I smoked for more than a year. I held myself back. I began to degenerate, to go for category of women that were not suitable for me, just to feel a sense of attachment at some point. Because for a very long time, throughout my secondary school, throughout my university, before I was withdrawn, I had no girlfriend. And it didn't come from just being morally upright necessarily. It came from not feeling good enough for anybody.
You know, a lot of people would say that there is this go-to place whenever, you know, they have experiences like this. Is there any of such for you? Is there somebody that is your go-to person? Is there some place that gives comfort or solace or?
My go-to place or my go-to person. Yeah, I have some cluster of go-to persons. I might not be necessarily keen about places. Maybe you might not really necessarily have access to those places all the time. But I have my go-to people that are still able to see the best in me and understand me. And yeah, there is a friend of mine called Elvis Ogbu. We've been friends for so many years. And the beginning of our friendship, the truth is that he might watch this one day and he might be blown away, because I used to feel at the early stages of our friendship I wasn't good enough to be his friend, because I didn't possess the qualities that he possessed as a person. Because in our relationship, he was the most enduring. I was full of a lot of crap with him. So, but it was good, because to stay around somebody that appreciates you regardless of all the crap you just try to do around shows how valuable you are to the person. And that's what homeliness and that's what family is. So yes, it's been family to me all the years. While we were in school together, he usually did all the work and he wouldn't really feel any force. He'd wash plates, wash clothes, and I'll come back just to come and open the pot and complain about enough food that he didn't cook, and he never really found any force in it. So I feel lucky that in the world of all these experiences, I could find people like that. I have a friend, his name is Williams. He's another amazing person that I'm lucky to also have had. He calls me every time. I think he calls me more than he calls any girl in his life. And it means so much to me, because I looked at life in a strata of classism. I might not necessarily be a classist, but I'm aware about the classism of affairs in any society. And he has not looked at his status as a reason to feel that I was not on his class status. He communicates with me as if I'm the same old person and he's the same old person I've known, regardless of his status, which is significantly different from mine at the moment. So yeah, him I found more love and affection from external people. Not they're not really much, but the few ones are people that I could go to the end of the world for to compensate them for a lot of their affection. So yes, they are go-to people I call for. I go to, but
Yeah. So, Adam, would you tell me about your love life?
well, John, like like a saying of John Lennon, he usually says he is a stranger to love. So I, I've not had this stability enough to experience a teenage or a young adult long love life. So I might have had one or two acquaintances with some girls. They're, they're not really much actually. They're just like two, basically. And I wouldn't call it a love experience. It's just
So, you would say that you've not experienced love from the opposite end?
no, I've never experienced love from the opposite end. A lot of girls at some points, through they they might have wanted, or they might have been interested in us getting to know each other before, you know, getting to be in a relationship to experience love. But like I was too enclosed in my shell to open myself to the possibilities of being love from the opposite end. So in that enclosure, that's prevented me from being able to experience dating specifically.
So, would you recognize love if you say?
Well, now my perception as an adult has been remodified. And in as much as we need empathy and emotional support, we also have to be conscious of the convention and present times and predominance. I don't really trust women
Why?
that much
Why?
because I see a lot of stories, I see a lot of breakup and betrayal that happens in relationships, and it doesn't give me the confidence to want to try out, being vulnerable enough to love. So
So, would you say that you have not seen an exemplary love life in the life of your parents, your marriage, or any of that that you would want to emulate?
no, I don't see I don't see the display of love for my parents with each other, because my parents splitted up when I was 4 years old. So I felt if they really understood the meaning of empathy, love, and compassion, they would have taken actions to sustain their marriage. They would have looked at how much it could go in affecting the life of the children. But they didn't make those efforts. So I felt they were selfish.
Do you think that has a predominant role, to play in your situation?
Yes, I believe, like I said, the actions of parents will be melted on the child's psychology. So I feel it has affected me negatively to look at marriage as a toxic experience that is going to possibly lead to anarchy, divorce, or splitting. So I believe more in securing myself financially before marriage, so that, and I believe that sustenance is basically in your finance, but emotional support don't really come from marriage or women. But there might be people that might have been lucky enough to have experienced love in marriages, but I feel it's a rare opportunity, so I might not be necessarily open to the possibility that it might have the likelihood of happening, given my experiences.
So does this mean that you are not open to marriage, or you're not going to marry? Or
Well, it is too early to say if I'm open or not open to marriage, but from inclination, I don't really seem like I've made it so much of a priority along the line of my journey as a person. I believe in fulfilling or living my dream more than pursuing marriage.
so what would give you the most fulfillment in life?
Well, I believe we as human beings, we have our purposes and we have our dreams. And what gives us the enthusiasm to keep living every day is living to actualize those things. And if those things are not actualized, you feel empty on the inside. And feeling empty on the inside is dead while living. And if you are dead while living, it's as good as not living.
So what exactly would give you satisfaction for the year? Would make life make sense to you?
Well, a meaningful recovery from all my losses will give me, will give a meaning, we give meaningfulness to the whole experience. If I'm able to chase those things I wanted, or leave a footprint like I wanted, or make a contribution to existence like I also wanted, well, one way or the other, contribution being it in art or maybe spoken word, because I actually like spoken word and I could really tell that I really had or have a good poetry prowess. If I could make those impact through spoken word, and if I could make it through any medium of contribution to the earth, it will give meaningfulness to my living, and it will give meaningfulness to me.
Do you have any spoken word you just want to do besides, or anything quickly? Is there something that comes to you right now you want to?
Yeah. Well, I have a lot of write-ups, personal write-ups that I talk somewhere around me.
Can you just
Okay.
recite and say one or do something?
So I once wrote about time. It was incomplete, but since it's incomplete, it's short enough. So I say time is a treasure that is much of what man craves for, because for the living is what it exists for. In favor of it, man is destined to soar, and in denial of it, he lives in tremendous sorrow. Time is a space in existence, is an accommodation of precedence. In it is the measure of our patience, and with it we see profit and consequence.
Wow. So would you choose to be you again?
Well, if I was to choose to be me, with all the qualities I had, but with not the experiences, yes, I would choose to be me. But if I was to be me with everything that happened, I rather wouldn't choose to be me again.
You know, in your journey of life, what do you think has been the most profound thing, the most encouraging thing you've ever experienced?
Well, it's really fragmented. It doesn't really sound profound enough to motivate a person, to give a person a glimpse of hope to chase and live. But in that little thing, I was able to see a glimpse of possibility that things might switch. There was a period of time I was doing my IGMB. So prior to that time, I was doing poorly academically for reasons I could not explain. Though in the whole conventional setup, things are operated more logically in the society, so there's no believer in diabolism or supernatural happenings that could come and alter the way or functionalities of a person. But I couldn't just function soundly academically for a very long time, from my early secondary school till I finished secondary school, and at some point my comprehension opened. It had an explosive opening. I was able to comprehend things to the climax of which I couldn't as a very long time. So I don't know what must have happened, or maybe if I was jinxed at some point and the stuff crashed. I strongly believe I was jinxed, and it was a recovery from the jinxing experience that led to profound ability to comprehend, because I believe that the capabilities of a man is wired in his ability to comprehend, and how far you can comprehend is how far you can see, and is how far you can thrive, and is how far your capabilities can be witnessed by people that seek those capabilities or people that appreciate those capabilities. And for the fact that at that point I had a sudden break into comprehension, that period of my life gave me a glimpse of hope that I could thrive, an opportunity to thrive could present itself. So,
you know, if you were to speak to yourself, speak to life, anything you would want for yourself, what would that be?
Presently,
Yeah.
I want to have 6 million views on YouTube from being a spoken word artist, because I believe with my experience, what would have suited me more was to be an expressionist. So that would create a groundbreaking chance to leave a mark in a way I would want to live before I depart my time from the earth. So,
Do you believe that there are people that have similar experiences with yours? That
Well-
have gone through similar things?
well, one cannot really box himself into thinking he's only the one with a certain type of experience. But whoever might have had this type of experience, that or this level, these experiences I've had, will really be going through a lot. You'll be going through a very stormy hurricane, and I wonder how where he's going to summon the ability to actually make a comeback from.
What word of encouragement would you give to someone like that?
Well, I would say he shouldn't lose hope, and as that I wish I was in the place where I would say, not losing hope at some point has gotten me somewhere. I'm still yet to experience whatever glory that I've been seeking since I was a child.
What would you advise someone, that was going through the same thing you?
What I would advise the person to do is to find the will to keep fighting. Yes, because the power of the will is so refreshing. It can refreshen your soul and give you the ability to stay hopeful. And the power of will comes from the depth and the core of hopefulness. So I would advise the person to remain enthusiastic, because as long as you remain enthusiastic, the hopefulness that things would work will give you the energy, the enthusiasm, the will to keep trying to chase those dreams. And in trying to chase those dreams, creates the chances and opportunity for them to actually be actualized.
Right.
Abdulmuhaimin.
Abdulmuhaimin. Thank you very much for coming.
Yes,
I
thank you
really
very
wish
much.
you the best in life.
Oh, thank you.
I hope you pick pieces of life and do the most you can.
Yeah, thank you. I'd want to say this is a very open and admirable platform where people could come and let out their fears, because society has a convention of making people to feel that they should talk in their pain, that people go through shit, so we should talk in our pain. But it feels liberating to say out those feelings and not to feel a sense of stigmatization when you say those things. So I'd want to also say this platform should continue, and there are a lot of people with scars and injuries that tuck it in and try to keep a smiley face because society forces you to feel you're not supposed to express your pain or express your vulnerabilities. But we have pains and we have vulnerabilities, so if we shed a tear to ease off from those things, the platform to shed those tears should always be in place. So this is an encouraging platform to propel people to shed those tears that might be bottled up in their hearts, because the world is not so much of a good place. A lot of people have too much scars and injury. And if we're talking about scars and injury, it would mean that it is okay to continue scarring people, and it is not okay to continue scarring people. People's rights and people's emotion, mental state and empathy should be well respected.
Thank you so much. That is really touching.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
thank you for having me on your show.